Yo, yo.
Mentally feel like Kobe, I'm like Jokic with the rock. You physically couldn't hold me, I don't care if you push it 40. You can never little bro me. Euro step like Ginobili, from young OG to the OG. From nosebleeds to floor seats, circle stronger than Cuban links. My gold dance, your gold plated. You verse me, now that's a reach. We ready, who ready?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the One-on-One Sports Show here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. I am Mr. Bennett, soon to be joined by Coach Ferg, who's in the back, and our brother Shawnee's going to be coming up. Dante is, taking care of some issues tonight, so again, we'll miss him as always on the show. But certainly appreciate you guys being here. Just ask when you guys come in tonight, make sure you hit the like button. Certainly as you come in, certainly consider dropping a super chat, certainly to the show, as well as a cash app, certainly to the Black Man Unfiltered Network, and certainly anything that you would want to give to us personally. We'd appreciate your support. You can certainly give it to us, certainly on the individual cash app. So again, really appreciate you guys being here tonight. We're still in sports purgatory. So we're going to be talking about a variety of different sports topics tonight, random as we kind of get into this thing. So I don't think Coach knows any of the things we're going to be talking about tonight, but certainly we're going to be looking for certainly his input as we be about the show tonight. So, just want to get into it. I say, oh, man, Shawnee's in the building. Just so I said, add him to the stage. What's going on, sir? How are you doing?
What's up, Mr. Bennett?
All right. Sound a little shallow, sir. A little shallow. Turn it up.
Hold on real quick. Let me adjust some microphone settings. Be right back.
Okay. All right. No problem. All right. I want to get this top there. Is the coach? What's going on, sir? How you doing?
What's up, brother, man? How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Do you hear background noise?
Not right now, no.
Okay, I hear you. I didn't realize I didn't have my camera on.
No problem. No problem at all. No problem at all. Just making sure that I'm cranked up pretty good here. Hopefully that should be good sound for me. And just let me check one more thing here just to make sure that sometimes my computer I was down. All right. Now I should be a lot better at this point. So, okay. All right. So what's going on with you, sir? How you doing?
Oh, man, it's Wednesday, man. Hump day, man.
Hump day.
Excited about the middle of the summer. So,
I thought every day is hump day for you. You being retired, I thought every day was hump day for you. So.
Well, no, it's just one day. Just one day.
Appreciate it.
Yes, I'm excited, man. Midsummer,
yes,
man. All-Star game, great kickoff. Watch the home run derby, too, if y'all don't watch baseball. But
yeah. I used to be honestly, I'm not as much into it as I used to be. It's almost like the slam dunk contest in basketball, One, sometimes you don't always have the stars out there, and I think they need to change it up a little bit. I think with all the pitches that they be throwing, I think they slow it down. I think in this, I wouldn't mind they just go to like a machine, and basically you start out with just different speeds. It's like the first balls you hit are like the 90, 95 miles an hour. That's like the first round. Second round, balls over 100 miles an hour. Last round, balls are like 110 miles an hour. And just let them go. But you be seeing these guys come out with their pitching coaches, and they're just constantly just lobbing balls at them, just looking for a good swing or whatever. No, straight fastball, no fluff, no nothing, just straight right down, and just see what you can do with it. See if you can catch up to it, and see if you can hit it out. But I think it gets sort of weighed down, at least from what I was seeing. It gets sometimes weighed down with all of the extra pitches that are coming out. But I would certainly like them to see, let's go digital with that, because I know we were going to talk about certainly MLB is going to adopt that new balls and strike system. They're actually going to incorporate that into the All-Star game. But again, I don't see the value in that, because again, it's not like guys are calling a lot of balls and strikes in an all-star game. So, how much use are you going to really get out of it at that particular point? But certainly, but I think an automatic pitching machine in the home run derby, I think that could be good. And let them crank it up and see what you can, see what you can do with it. I would love to see that. But you're more old school. You just want the pitcher.
No, I can see the pitching. I can see the pitching machine, but 110 miles an hour, brother Benny, come on, man.
Let him hit it. Look, you got some pitchers gonna crank it up to 103, 104.
Yeah, but that's about as far as you're gonna get, right? Maybe not.
That's the thing. But see, with those guys, you don't know what's coming. You know what I mean? Because if he's got an 80 mile an hour off speed, then that 104 is gonna look like 110 when he throws it. So I'm just saying, it's like this the round.
Straight fastballs, I can see. I can see it.
Yeah. Shawnee, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? Would you rather see in the home run derby if they start using a pitching machine rather than having a pitching coach or someone just lobbing balls at the players? Just fast balls, 195, start at 90, 100, 110, and you just see if you can catch up to it. Just straight down the middle and see what can happen. What do you think about that?
Well, first, can y'all hear me okay?
It's still a little shallow. If you can,
sound like you're far back. It sounds like your mic is far back.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me better now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Still keep working on it during the show and just keep talking.
No, I can hear pretty good.
Yeah. But go ahead.
But yeah, I'd rather have them using their whoever's throwing them the ball, because that's the person that's the person that they've been doing the time, the pitching with. They have the timing with, because they're not throwing whatever, they're not throwing hard. They're just trying to stay consistent in whatever spot that they always been practicing on. So I'd rather have the human. Basically, when it comes to baseball, I'd rather them keep the human element. Period. Mm-hmm. I don't really want them going to the machine, because the human element in baseball is that's a part of the fabric of the game. I mean, the umpires, and I know we were talking about the pitching in the home run derby, but I know, that's the machine for that. Cause I could imagine to be no different than a batting cage. How you just constantly throwing a pitch, and it's going to be basically in the same spot all the time. But that's also the skill set for a hitter to hit a human pitcher, because they have to.
It's moving on the ball.
Yeah. Now the pitcher is trying to throw the same spot as much as he can, because they're trying to give him an easy one. Mm-hmm. But you see them how sometimes they have to back out because the pitch just wasn't there, because they're trying to, get a level swing on it. They just want something flat so they can swing through it, and not something that kind of dives down towards the plate per se. But yeah, I like the human element.
I would just like to see it sped up, because again, those pitching goes, they be lobbing them balls up in there, and the guy, I mean, it's not like there's pitches he couldn't swing at. It's like, that looked like a good one, swing at that, and he just keeps drawing it out until he finds one. So I would like to see it sped up a bit. So again, I think with the machine, I think you could probably get a little variability on those things. I'm sure they could put something in there, but again, it'll be more consistent. Like, you're going to be looking to throw strikes, no curveballs or off speed or whatever. And let's just see if these guys can just, can hit it. Maybe if you think it's too much like a batting cage, maybe limit the amount of outs that you can get. Maybe 7 outs instead of 10 outs or something like that, just to speed it up. But it just seems like too many of these junk pitches they be just waffling on. And it just kind of loses something.
But Brother Bennett, it's sort of by design the way they do it, right? They want you to have a 3-4 hour, 3.5 hour level of, I guess, entertainment in that window. So, what I'm saying, they still are able to fit it in. But the thing is this: not all batters hit the same pitch as a home run. Like, your best pitch that you hit may be a slider, Shawnee's may be a curveball, mine may be a fastball. So the people, I can see Shawnee's right about the human element, because they can throw the pitch where your best hit is for the most part. So you can hit the home runs. That's the objective of the Derby is just hit the most home runs. So
You think there's guys who favor sliders or curveballs for home runs over fastball down the middle?
no, I don't know. I don't. I would like to see what those numbers would be because again, pitchers hit all kinds of balls as
I
home runs.
I think
So
so.
The only
I
thing
think
I've
so.
seen is I know there's certain guys who like a pitch in certain areas. Some guys like it down the middle. Some guys like a little bit in, so they can get a little more torque on it. Some guys go outside. If you want them hitters that likes to hit to the opposite field, you want it on the outside because you know how they do. They'll have like that 9 square thing, and they're like the hot areas is where the guy really likes to get the pitch. But as far as the pitch itself, whether it be a curve or whatever, I would still think a fastball would be or
Well,
something that's straight versus
it
something
depends
curve.
on the hitter.
Bryce Harper, he loves curveball.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, so there's there's hitters out there that's just real good at breaking balls. Now this, of course, because I think whoever they be having throwing, it'd be a variety of people. I mean, it may be a coach. I've seen their dads throw them the ball. So obviously, if you getting somebody trying to throw you some type of breaking ball per se, they're gonna have to be skilled. But still, you don't want them. I I don't even know what type of pitches they really throw to them per se. They may have a natural spin on them because they just doing their best to just lobbing it to them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Well, they got to pitch it over that cage, right?
Yeah. So you got to have some type of
they
form,
can't
yeah.
throw it too straight. So it's going to be coming from a very high angle down, and it's still going to be up a bit because again, that's another thing. I mean, if you really want these guys to hit, you don't want the guy, the pitcher getting hit with some line drives or whatever. So again, that's why they do that as well. So it's not even like a real pitch they would even see in a game. You know what I mean? So I would like to see at least try it 1 year and see. And like I said, limit the amount of outs, give them 5 outs instead of 10. And just like I said, just crank up the speed and see if you can catch up to 110 mile an hour. That'll be like the championship round. See if you can catch up to it, and see if you can hit it out. But that was sort of a bit of a tangent. But certainly again the automatic ball strike machine ABS will be used in the All-Star game this year. Again, we got to see. Is it going to be used? I mean, a coach is really going to be like challenged in an All-Star game. Are you really going to say challenge that ball to strike? I mean, I don't even know if they're still playing. Like back in the day when they were playing, I don't because they used to play for the winner of the All-Star game got some home
World Series. Got the World Series
something like that. So they tried to
host it,
incentivize it. Then they had problems with trying to incentivize the All-Star game. So unless you put that in. That could be a possible issue, but let's get into the subject tonight. So let's talk a little NFL tonight. So again, just our lead-in topic tonight. So I want to share my screen, and let's see if we can talk about this. I just want to make sure I get the audio in here as well, and put a thumbs up to see if you can hear this.
I guarantee you don't move. Are you crazy? Please off. I was trying. I thought you were going to go. I said I moved. How much?
Yeah.
What's wrong with my weight class? You tell him to like this? Yeah. They got stuff on the ground, like I can't get no.
So the question for the floor here. Now, I was thinking about this, and I'm like, and I don't know why I didn't think about it before, is why is it that you haven't had the NFL, which is always looking for an angle, they're always looking for some edge or what have you. You got these sumo wrestlers who are trained athletes. These are not slobby guys or whatever. These are highly trained, powerful athletes. In fact, if you look at a lot of the NFL play, you look at a lot of the hand movements that a lot of NFL players use. a lot of that is like the same thing in sumo. So I'm thinking here you got arguably, we talked about this last week, you have arguably one of the top 3 pass rushers set out to finesse visions in the building tonight. Yes, sir, Steelers Nation represent. You got one of the top 3 players. Them boys ain't trying to prove it. If you incentivize them enough. Now, I looked it up. So the average sumo wrestler makes about, and I'm talking about some of the top guys, making maybe a couple $100,000 a year in US dollars. The big guys, the Yokozuna guys, they may make $1 million or $2 million a year or something like that. But I'm thinking, one, the NFL is always looking for a marketing edge. Could you imagine if you can get some of these sumo wrestlers to play on the O-line, and if they can stop an elite pass rusher like Micah Parsons, that at least the experiment to put these guys in, and could you imagine the marketing boom that the NFL could sell? It's fairly popular in Japan, but could you imagine these NFL players with Japanese names? And what if they play the game? They play in games in Europe and all these other places. They can play in the Tokyo Dome in Japan with these Japanese players on there. I'm thinking, why not try it? I mean, I'm surprised no one's gone and tried to recruit these guys. But if you ever saw a sumo match, very powerful, very quick guys or whatever. I'm not saying these guys could be edge rushers, tackles, but you put them on the interior. If you need a touch push, which is legal in the NFL now, you put these guys in. Hey man, this could work. I'm saying, at least if I'm an exec, I'm trying to grow the brand and whatnot. Yay, why not? What do you guys say about that, Coach? What's your say?
Brother Bennett, don't lose your job, man. Don't lose your job, man. Don't do it. No, man. Listen, man.
What, they're about to guy in for a tryout?
No, listen. I can understand, but the footwork is totally different. You talking apples and oranges when it comes to that. I'll applaud Michael Parsons, though. I'll applaud that. I think he showed too much, because if he's practicing this, take his rush technique against people who are notorious for planting their feet in the ground. That's the thing. Sumo wrestlers go front and backwards. Ain't no side to side. They step to the side, but they know you ain't getting no Miles. You ain't stopping Miles Garrett, who's pumping his feet. You see Parsons, he was pumping his feet. It's a football move. But as far as pound for pound, you see sumo wrestlers can stop a rush, a bull rush. And I think Parsons doing that. He gonna probably have one of his best years this year, just based off what I see in that video. But yeah, it wouldn't work. You know what I'm saying? Unless you had it's like they would have to be able to be introduced to the game as children in both sports. If you wanted to have a player that's a sumo wrestler, he would have to be introduced to football early in age, 5, 6, 7, because the footwork is totally different. And it wouldn't even,
Obviously there would be a learning curve. No question about it. I'm not saying you pick a sumo off the street and put some pads on them and put them into a game.
You give them 5 years. 5 years.
I'm just saying these guys, given the size, their size, they have some certain skills, especially in a tight area. And we've seen other athletes from other sports. I think even Brock Lesnar, I think he had to try out with the Vikings or something like that.
But they play football early. They play football as kids, though. It's a difference. If you play it as a kid, it's like riding a bike. So being introduced to it as a kid in both sports, I think it could happen. But somebody that's sumo wrestling all their life, they wouldn't have a chance out there. They'll get cut in first.
Well, I put it like this. Out of all the majority of the American sports that we have, I think football is the easiest to grasp, because there's a position.
Hang on, say that again. I think
out of all the American sports that we have, I believe football is the easiest to grasp as far as do per se, because there's a position for various skills and sizes. Like basketball is a lot of skill, baseball has a lot of skill, hockey is a lot of skill. Football, if you're not fast, you could be big, you play O-line. There's a spot somewhere on the field that you could potentially make. It's not a guarantee, but there's somewhere potentially you can make. And with sumo wrestlers, you see it no different. Obviously they train majority of their career or whatever in sumo wrestling.
Of course.
It to me, I look at it no different than a late bloomer who pick up the sport of basketball. Many of them probably were soccer players, especially if they're coming from overseas and they played basketball like late into like their college years and found out they can actually play the sport and started training as a basketball player. And hell, that was Akeem Olajuwon. There's a current, I believe, a UConn dude who was in a similar boat. So you've seen it happen before, like a player spent majority of their life playing one sport and then was literally a late bloomer coming into another. And
well, no, I remember Christian Okoye, if one understand. It was the Nigerian nightmare running back with the Chiefs. He didn't have a long football background, but again, he was just a physical freak.
Yeah,
he has a couple successful years, Pro Bowl years in the league.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a sumo wrestler out there who is athletic. Now, of course, they're gonna have to change their diet. Basically, instead of training like a sumo, start training like a football player.
Mm-hmm.
So they do the workouts and whatnot, and develop the footwork and the technique per se. Now, when it comes to putting them in, especially an offensive line, because they're the biggest one on the field, as a tackle, that'd be a bad idea because they want, like Micah. Micah obviously wasn't going to do nothing. Cause I mentioned last week, Micah's undersized. He's the worst. Forget a sumo wrestler. He can't even do that to like a 280 pound.
Hold up. Did you see him slide the man back? He slid him back about a foot.
And then once he put his foot in the ground, he couldn't move no more.
But what I'm saying is, that's how it is on defense. Sometimes you go win, sometimes
not with players like Micah. Micah, he doesn't use. I mean, he uses speed. So if we put him on a football player and on the football field, Mike will easily go around him because he'll just get a wide stance and use his speed. But I was saying when Mr. Bennett brought up into us in the chat, and like the tackle won't be good. But as like a center or a guard, then they can show something in those positions because you're not asking them to guard the fastest dude on the line per se. They guard another big body, especially if you're a guard or whatnot, because a lot of times if you fire off the ball. Like I said, this comes where if they talk training. I'm looking at training all these sets. He acting like you literally just taking somebody off the sumo ring and then put them right on the field. Like, no, they're going to have to do some training because they're going to have to get accustomed to the game. And, obviously many sumo players, they are quicker on their feet. They're athletic. They're just bigger dudes. So it would be interesting. I mean, all they have to do is try out. And if enough of them try out and actually take it serious with a workout program, I won't be surprised to see one make a practice squad or something. But
yeah, and I don't think you necessarily even have to play them on every down. You know what I mean? Like I said, if you got a third and short situation or whatever, you just need, because again, when those guys line up, they're in a very small area and they just trying to get that explosive push off the line. If you just need a yard or two, you could bring him in on short yardage situations. And again, I'm not saying, go hire a ton of these guys or whatever. But again,
you just saying they can
football, NFL, just like any other business, is about marketing. And if you can get a couple of these guys at least into your camp, you're going to have all the Japanese reporters out there talking about it. You put a game in Japan or whatever, is going to sell out the arena because you're going to have all these guys on it. We're having fun with this, Trey. We're not taking this very seriously. Like I said, it's the off season. We're just having some fun with it. But I did see the video. I thought it was I think I remember one time Mike Tyson when he fought in Tokyo, not the loss to Douglas, but when he fought I think Tony Tubbs, he got into the ring more than them. They were moving them around. So it's just a lighthearted, just to kind of get days going. But let's move on to the next subject here. So we got and again, Shawnee, thanks for giving the content ahead of time. So again, NFL execs, coaches, and scouts rank the NFL's top 10 running backs for 2025. And so we got here, not surprised, certainly at the top of the list. I mean, obviously, Derrick Henry, shout out to him, who a lot of people thought he might have been on the downside of his career, but, certainly had a very successful career with season with the Ravens. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Jamar Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, which is a little high. I don't know if I put him up there simply just given his injury history as of late, not reliable being there. The next guy, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Joe Mixon, and Alvin Kamara, who's still up there as a top 10 back. So any thoughts on this list here? Anybody you would, who you think should be on this list, or anybody you would rank higher on this list of running backs in this top 10 list?
Well, I always say if you want to piss people off, just create a list. There's nothing will piss off people more in sports than just create a list, because they damn they get offended at the people you will put in your rankings. But as I look through the names, I definitely don't have this is coming into the 2025 season. Definitely obvious that Barkley and Henry be 1 and 2 coming to this season, and I think you can start potentially moving backs around when it comes to 3 and so on. I think Jonathan Taylor can be potentially higher, if he could just stay healthy. He's a good back as he is, and obviously Christian McCaffrey, he can go up to number 1 if he was healthy, the way he's used. But I think with McCaffrey, Gibbs, I think who was the on what's the other backs on the other slide? McCaffrey, Gibbs. Them two, I'm looking at how interesting it's going to be, because they got some differences as far as offensively with their personnel that could potentially, change up their production, whatever numbers they put up. Joe Mixon, I think he could be potentially higher than this, because he has. I don't know if y'all are aware, the Texans picked up Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
So that would be an excellent 1-2 combo for Mixon, who can be more fresh in the backfield. So I think he could put some better numbers than be ranked number 9 by the end of next season. So at a glance right now, I don't have no issue with the rankings, these top 10. Some of them, especially within the top 5, they have different offenses coming in. Gibbs and McCaffrey in particular. It's going to be interesting to see how Detroit is going to be without Ben Johnson as their OC. That's going to be super interesting. And then 49ers, they losing some of the offensive weapons. Hell, I'm going to piss everybody off again. I'm just saying it because it relates. Me, as a Cowboys fan, I've seen it firsthand, I guess, if you lose a player and how a ripple effect it will just have to the whole team. So that's what I'm looking at with the 49ers. Now, with the Lions, it's just Johnson was just that dude as far as offensive minds in the NFL. And losing him, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Detroit goes after that. But I don't have no problem with these 10 as of right now.
Coach, what are your thoughts on the list? Fair? Any shuffling you would do on this list here?
Oh yeah. Okay. So first of all, I know everybody love the Great White Hope. I would move him to number 7 because he's proven over the last 5-6 years he gets injured. I don't want no back that's not on the field. It makes no sense. So top 2 locked in. Gibbs, it's close between. I would bring Jonathan Taylor to 4, shift McCaffrey down to 7, and Gibbs and Robinson and Cook. I think Cook would be in the top 5. I would bring Taylor and Cook into the top 5. I would move Gibbs to number 6, in that, and just because McCaffrey, he's good, but he's injured. Number 7. Everybody else, I would just leave the same. Jacobs, Mixon, yeah. Kamara, yeah, because they all injured. Injured backs don't get, when you're injured like that, it doesn't do it. Mixon, I think he's good, but I would just move McCaffrey to number 7, Taylor and Cook, round out the top 5.
Yeah, I'm almost to the point I may want to move McCaffrey out of the top 10. Like I said, just the injury history as of late. He's also 29 years old, and that seems to be sort of like the drop off for a lot of guys. Because Derrick Henry certainly had a certainly a nice bounce back year, but again doing at 31, which is rare. So certainly I was glad to see him rebound from last year, but I can't see. And definitely, Christian's not getting any more money, so no more contracts for him. Let him play it out, and just cut him. At this point, talented guy, when he's healthy, but yeah, too many injuries to factor in. All right, let's move to the next block. All right, so again, it's a little NBA action here. So again, saw this article. So DeAndre Ayton, who's recently signed with the Lakers, and shout out to our guy Dante, who is in the chat tonight. So I wish he would be up here for this topic. But DeAndre Ayton says he's excited to play with a super ripped Luka Doncic for the Lakers. Feels like a video game. So did Luka get the message finally? That is he willing to give up his beers and whatnot and actually come in condition, and he's really to dedicate himself wholly to the game, or it's just more just smoke and mirrors that or just hype here, Train. What's your thoughts on Luka, for this coming year? You think he's serious about getting in shape, or is this, are we talking just fluff here? Coach, what do you think about this?
If this is a last week, this week picture, yeah, he's serious. It shows right in the picture. If this is his body, because AI, y'all. But if it's him, yeah, it shows right now. I think it's a good move for LA. I was thinking about that when it happened. He's Ayton averages 16 points, 10 rebounds. Yeah, go get all 16 of those points and maybe get 11, 12 rebounds. But you got a 30-point in Luka, LeBron James of 2025. They have some nice size. I think they need another point guard, just somebody super point guard, and they'd be okay. But yeah, if that's his body, yeah, salute to him, man. Had to get out of Dallas, man. It's too much going on. But LA, he's out there with LeBron, one of the best trainers in the history of the game.
Right. Yeah, this was the pick that was in the article, so I don't know how recent the pick was or not. That's straight from the article. But again, now I did like Trey's take. Now I certainly think he's predicting Luka may win the MVP this year. Is I don't know the prospect of that. Shawnee, your thoughts on Ayton's statement here, as well as why not chop it up? You think Luka, is he capable of winning the MVP this particular year? What's your take on that?
Mm-hmm.
Luka definitely has a talent to win MVP because he almost did it with the Mavs. So he definitely has a talent to potentially win one. It's not like you got to be a defensive stalwart to win MVP. We saw that with James Harden. But this is not the first time Luka lost weight. We saw him like that here in Dallas. He lost weight before. It's just his thing is he has to stay like this throughout the season. And then if he gets injured, then it really, a setback. But this is not the first time. This is maybe the best shape he has since he's been in the NBA, maybe. Because I remember a year that he had a off season where he lost a lot, good amount of weight and came in better shape than the year before. So I just think when he was with Dallas, he got content. He's a foreign player who came into Dallas. They accepted him as one of their own. So even now he still considers Dallas his home, as his American home, and basically gave him the keys to the franchise, gave him the keys to the city. All that. He was the dude down here. You know, he was basically successfully, you know, picking up where Dirk left off. Now he's still not Dirk. You know, Dirk is, you know, beloved here in DFW. But Luka was getting there, especially after that finals run he had in you know, with the Mavericks. But he can't, you know, he had shape. His biggest thing is just his mentality. You know, it was the fact that he still need to get in shape, his conditioning, and then of course his whining to the referees a lot. Now, after he was traded, you know, 'cause he was content when he hit Dallas. He was given a lot, you know, in Dallas, so he got content here in Dallas. After he was traded to the Lakers, I'm sure he heard a lot of that. People was trying to figure out why the Mavericks would trade him because it came so suddenly. Why was he traded? Why was he traded? And then when Nico and started talking to the media and whatnot, they looked like they was just throwing shots, you know, talking about effort, conditioning, all this stuff was thrown his way after he was traded to the Lakers. So Luka heard that. So he took it upon himself to go get in. Well, he lost weight. His conditioning still remains to be seen. You really won't get a glimpse of that until the season actually starts. You know, and your conditioning, we expect you to put effort on both sides of the court if you're going to be in better condition.
But, a little muscle.
Well, he just, you know, it's not like he was a weak player. Luka always
he had a beer drinking body.
Yeah, but he wasn't like he was able to use his strength pretty good. You know, he was able to he could be a physical.
Is that true, Shawnee?
What's that?
The Dallas Steakhouse had a 70-cent steak named after. Is that true?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm pretty sure it's probably over there in downtown Dallas. They do that. You know, he was beloved down here, man. Especially after that finals appearance, man. Luka was beloved down here. That's why the city, the Metroplex, so pissed off when they traded him.
Yeah.
But he.
Now how's everybody, speaking of that? Now how's everybody feeling now?
Well, they lucked up. Nico lucked up because they magically get the number one overall pick.
Yeah.
That don't happen to a team that was in the play-in, basically a makeshift playoff last year. And then with the two cornerstone players that they have, and then you still get the number one overall pick, he lucked up. So now they kind of like, okay, you know, Luka is now they really talking, okay, how this team will look like once Kyrie come back, because they could be good. Because they made some roster, they're trying to bolster the roster and try to get a point guard, which I believe they're going to get. I forgot the point guard name who's going to hold it down until Kyrie come back. So they kind of letting go this, you know, the Luka thing now because they lucked up and got Cooper Flag. But as far as Luka, it's good to see him take it. Cause I was like, damn, you're gonna be a teammate of LeBron James. You definitely don't have an excuse now to. I'll try to just soak up all the knowledge how you can keep your body and get your body in tip-top condition, you know. But I'm not surprised he lost the weight in the offseason. He did it before. Just remains to see how he can keep it off and hopefully he's just not losing weight. Hopefully he's vastly improving his condition, and then with an improved condition, improve his effort on both sides of the court. Nobody asking you got to be a first-team defensive player. You just have to be like Steph Curry. That's why Steph Curry is by far not the best defender, but people don't really talk about him because he gives effort.
Yeah.
You know, now Luka used to be a little bit better because he's a bigger body. You know, at least to be a better post defender. But you know, that's all people ask him. Well, just give more effort and you know, stop whining to the referees a lot. So
yeah, all right, I hear you. All right, next block here. So obviously, a lot of guys getting paid this past from this past season. With you know, certainly the biggest, obviously MVP Alexander got $285 million. Paolo got 287 5 years. Holmgren got a super rookie max, but then Devin Booker, 321 year max deal, which I almost think, you know, look, you could almost argue should Phoenix have just, you know, taken the whole thing down. I don't know if you want to commit all that money to Booker like that, but guys getting paid. But again, just with this booming contracts, I want to just tie this in certainly to the to the next slide here. And again, Shawnee, I know you introduced this. You want to actually no, let's get to this one here. We'll get to the other one later. But you were talking about the end of super teams, and you wanted to kind of have a discussion, just sort of break this down in terms of this. So if you want to give a little explanation on this on this slide here, and then we'll tie it back to the contracts. I'm just thinking, just the fact that these guys are getting these supermax deals. How are you going to build a super team with that? Because again, you can't afford to bring all these guys together when you're going to just basically open up the bank and play these and pay these players these exorbitant salaries, even with the new TV deals and all the things that are coming forward. So you want to talk a little bit about this?
Now Dante will better be able to explain this better because he's mentioned the second apron, multiple times on the show. But basically, we know. As of now, basketball doesn't have a hard salary cap, per se. But this second apron is basically salary cap in quotations. So, as you can see on the chart, and this is basically the end of super teams, because again, the Players Association, they agree with this. And, when they signed the recent CBA, and Draymond Green on this podcast he mentioned that he tried to tell them don't sign this because the PA gonna be getting screwed, but they signed it anyway because they looking at how owners they'll dangle this one carrot talking about the media deal so players can get potentially more money. So they dangling that carrot in front of the players, knowing there's a whole lot of behind the scenes that they not really paying no attention to, unless a player like Draymond, who's a vet in the game, and Draymond, remember he was a second round pick, so he wasn't always in the money. He worked his way to the money, so he's more familiar with, he experienced some like the mid level exceptions and all that stuff as he go into his career. But with and go back to that slide.
Oh, next slide. Back to the slides. Okay.
Yeah, back to the slide.
Okay.
So basically, you see like there's the first apron, which teams still operate in. As you can just see with the first apron, is basically got the tax level on the graph there. And then the first apron is about 179 million as far as team salary. And then you have, but once you hit the first apron, you got no signing trades, no trade exceptions, and no taking back money in trades. Those the penalties, I guess, for a first apron. But a team can still operate like that. It's basically kind of equivalent to an upgraded version of a luxury tax. There were some teams that were still willing to pay the luxury tax if they was able to acquire these players to make super teams. For example, the Suns, when they traded for Bill to make it a Bill, Booker, and Durant at that time, or when the Nets had it, they were willing to pay the luxury tax. But the only thing then was like, okay, you give your play, you give these cornerstone players so much of your money, obviously it's going to be hard to fill out the rest of your roster, especially for depth. So the way, teams or the owners and whatnot was trying to end these super teams now is to create this version of their salary cap, and that's the second apron. And basically, once you get to that second apron, it's hell for a team. It is something they do not want to have to go to. You will start losing draft picks. You can't trade for, how sometimes you will see teams trade a player for cash, for relief. You can't do that. It's everything from the first apron, as you see in the chart. No aggregating contracts, meaning if there's a player that you're trying to come to your team that has a big contract that you're trying to trade for, you're trying to trade, a group of players or a tandem of players from your squad that can be equivalent to that contract. So you can't do that. And, it's limited sign and trade rules. And then also you lose a first round pick, 2032. Like some in the future, you'll lose a first round pick or whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's several penalties that teams will go to. What's up, Coach?
No, go ahead. I'll wait.
Oh, okay. It's a It's a hard penalty that teams will get hit with by the second apron. So that's why you see teams now that, yes, okay, we looking at teams like I mentioned, the Suns with their big three at one time. But say you look at the Celtics, they can't afford to keep a Drew Holiday or a Porzingis or whatnot. They have to trade them because then they're gonna be approaching the second apron, and
Yeah,
it's just gonna
they
be
were looking
hell
at
to them.
$500 million in contracts.
Yeah,
And mind
so
you, they're not the most profitable franchise. Certainly in NBA, they were not even in the top 10 because again, there's a lot of assets they don't own. They don't own the Garden, the TD Garden. That's not. The Bruins own that. I think they're just kind of renters there. So a lot of their revenue streams aren't where they need to be. So they definitely had to unload some things.
yeah, and I'm seeing Finesse asked why put the aprons. The aprons were put there, and Dante, he could, like I say, he by definitely be able to explain this better than me, but they put them aprons there because they got tired of the super teams, and as you can see in real time, how we had 7 straight different NBA champions,
8. We're into the 8th now.
and
It's
the
the
eight.
eighth straight
Okay,
year.
so the parity has grown. So now you look at teams now that go, if they even try to even go through the super team option, dude, they teams suck because now you got these big three, but you have no debt, and that's the thing that we've been seeing lately is teams with debt. So, but now with the second apron really being a factor in many of these teams, especially with these teams that have these young stars and they getting money, ultimately a team has to, and the Boston Celtics are a perfect example. Um, I think there's another team that was like that too. I think Milwaukee was, but there you see these teams that, because you think about, and before I pass it off, so teams like the Knicks, even though they didn't win a championship, but like during the Patrick Ewing, it was Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Charles Oakley, Xavier McDaniel, those dudes who was able to stay with a team for a while, ultimately, they may get traded down the line, but they was able to stay with a team for at least 6 or 7 seasons. It's because they didn't have to worry about the contracts or whatnot. They was able to pay him or whatnot to stay on the team, to really build on the team. But right now, with players getting the money that they're getting, teams can't keep them that long. And then if they keep them too long, they're going to approach the second apron, and it's going to be hell on the team. So
Really quick
Hey,
before
Coach.
Dante comes, and that's the problem. See, they should have listened to Draymond Green, because if you playing one player $50 million a year, then if you want to stay under the salary cap, everybody else got to split that money, and that's including your two-way players and your 10-day contracts. All of that money is incorporated in it, and this is where the players are. You seeing all these players. No way Devin Booker signs a $300 million contract 10 years into his career. But again, he's doing something right in Phoenix. He knows somebody important in Phoenix for him to be maxing out, because they haven't talked about trading him one time in his whole career. And that's where I don't know, man. It's bad for the players. I would capitalize as a young player and sign a max contract too. Holmgren got a fully guaranteed contract. No other player did that. Now they got to sign. They gonna have to sign Williams, or he gonna walk. They'll have to sign Dort. It's players are gonna lose out, and it's gonna look bad in the end, which you'll see. So, yeah.
Heard that. Welcome to the show, Dante. Glad you were certainly able to join us. So again, any thoughts? I think this was one of the points that you would raise. So if you want to give the more enlightenment on this breakdown that we're seeing here, in light of, like I said, the recent salaries, a lot of guys getting paid serious money, and so again, what's your thoughts on that, and how this structure, how that's going to impact teams going forward, as far as being able to not only maintain the championship team, but certainly eliminate this idea of super teams, which certainly has been said in the chat. I mean, obviously, having villains to beat. We all know about those Celtic and Laker dynasties and Miami Heat and things of that nature. But if you're going to have a different champion every year, then again, who's going to be the team you're going to hate? Because everybody kind of has a different, everyone has a different crack at it every year. So what's your take on that?
Okay. What's going on, fellas? Hope my sound is pretty good. I
Yeah,
tested a little bit before I got on. Okay. But yes, I'm with Trey. Anytime we do need super teams, it does create that villain that's there that you're looking at. Also, I heard a good point. I was listening to Bawani Jones, and he was saying that you have that championship arc where you get guys that keep getting to the playoffs, keep getting there. So you have that cinema like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They kept getting there. They made the finals and they lost, and then they made it back 2 years later and win. So it's just like you have players doing that. If you're building that arc, there's a player that we talked about a lot, Anthony Edwards. He's been to the conference finals twice, so he's on that stage. Well, guess what? Now, before the season started last year, they have to trade Karl Anthony Towns, which I didn't like his stylistically, but you have to trade a guy because you don't want to pay the tax. And I think what they meant was they wanted to end the super teams and make it difficult, but they also have made it punitive to the Oklahoma City Thunders. Like now they drafted the right way, where they built this team through the draft, through smart free agent moves. And now you're looking at, okay, we paid Hardenstein last year to get and that helps the boost to help them give them the too big lineup. Well, now guess what? Dort might have to go, which Dort, I would say, really good defender. You can try to find someone else cheaper, but you have to decide who you're going to keep. And they were tired of the super mega rich owners, the Joe Lacombs of the world, to be like, hey, I'm just going to overspend. I'm going to pay the tax. And the tax was built to deter that. Now, like, you're going to freeze the draft pick. I think it was too punitive. It was too much. But the owners, smarter than everybody, the NBA should have pushed a bit harder to say, hey, this is going to kill things. And it's not working out. And it's making, like they said, hey, man, it's 12:00. It's 5 minutes after free agency started, and there's not 10 notifications of 10 big moves. It's like everybody's waiting. And now it's like, hey, I'm going to sign this super max, which is supposed to be an incentive to keep your guys, which I'm all about guys getting the big money, because especially the guys that are marquee players, you're bringing so much revenue to your team with your face.
Yeah. The only thing with this last comment here, I mean, the Cowboys have lost so much, though. I mean, it's if they were still like from the 90s, you can kind of see it. But again, they've been so irrelevant for so long. There's no shit. I mean, you guys got to admit, I mean, with that, especially at Dak and QB, but people still hate them, even though they haven't been relevant in the deep playoff run. They haven't been to a Super Bowl in 30 years. But so again, they seem to have this mystique that just seems to keep people captive. So again, just out of everyone on this list, all these other teams here, Patriots, Chiefs, 49ers, they've been relevant, in recent memory. But the Cowboys, they just continue to own that space. So
I'm looking at those. Those really wasn't super teams. They were just good teams. People just got tired of those franchises. So it's no different than. Because in the NBA Finals, it wasn't about the lack of super teams that people wasn't watching them. They was talking about the two teams, the two markets, OKC and Indiana. That's what they was bringing up. It wasn't. If New York would have made, New York doesn't have a super team, but if they would have made the NBA Finals, we probably wouldn't have been hearing nothing really about the ratings, because one of the big market teams would have been playing. So yeah, the last, like I say, the Suns and Milwaukee was the current super teams, and they weren't leading the league in viewership. They wasn't winning anything with them, especially the Suns. Now Milwaukee has somewhat of an excuse because Lillard was hurt a lot of the time, but it's not like they was leading the NBA in viewership and whatnot.
Yeah, I think we were talking more recent history. It's like everybody still talks about the Cowboys, even though, like I said, they were relevant 30 years ago. That's my point. But since then, they haven't had a super anything, but they still seem to lead the headlines, and they're still in the A block on most of the shows. That's why, even on this show, we intentionally only try to talk about the Cowboys when it's absolutely necessary, not to make the.
If I can give any football team or super team as far as a team, I would go with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the 70s Pittsburgh Steelers. They had some of the most notorious players on offense and defense.
Yeah.
So,
but are we defining super team as just a team that has players, or a team that builds through acquiring players? Because they built those 70s teams through the draft. They didn't. They won the Super Bowls they won with homegrown talent, though.
Yeah.
I thought when we talk about super teams, we're talking about just like. They did, but I'm saying, but with all their talent was homegrown. They didn't do it through free agency. I think the point that Trey was making, again, when Dion, again, he won a Super Bowl with the 49ers. Then he went to the Cowboys and won another one the next year. And certainly, with the Patriots getting Randy Moss, they went, even though they lost the Super Bowl, they went 16-0. So, and I thought the idea was the super team was, again, acquiring a mix of certainly a homegrown and free agent talent, like what the Miami Heat tried to do, and the Lakers back in 04 tried to do. But if you grow your team with homegrown, you draft well and you develop these players, I do think there should be some sort of exceptions or something to make be able to keep more of your homegrown talent. If you did the work as the GM to build a team, I don't think you should necessarily be penalized for that. So I think there's a difference between that versus if somebody wants to go and sign Giannis to a $350 million deal, which just based on these salaries here, that that may not be too far-fetched, then yeah, I think you should pay a bit more if you want to put that kind of money out. But if you build your team from scratch, I think there should be some exceptions to allow you to keep what you built. And if you don't have that, then that means, pick a better GM or someone who can evaluate talent better and draft. Like all those years that Jordan, who's arguably the worst GM in NBA history, he didn't deserve any breaks. He should stay right where he was because, again, everybody he drafted when he owned the Hornets was awful. So I think that, I think they should give you some grace when you want to be, if you build your team the right way.
Yeah, I think because
You don't need no breaks.
I think the NBA obviously because they player ran for the most part, player empowerment in the NBA, and with the contracts they get, they're I know we talking about this first and second apron that's basically eliminating super teams in this era, in this current era about NBA. But NBA was the main ones who was creating the super teams because they was getting these high paid free agents to come join, the same team. Baseball to an extent would do that. The New York Mets, damn sure the Dodgers, they figure out a trick with these delayed contracts. So baseball kind of do it too, and they don't have, I think with NBA they wanted more parity in the league. Baseball they don't really care because profit, revenue sharing. They get money anyway. So that's why you have this I've seen contrast in teams like the Dodgers and the Athletics and the salaries that they make. And the Motors getting money from Dodgers and the Yankees and whatnot. They just sharing the revenue. NFL, especially in today's NFL, you can't really have a super team. I guess I think the closest thing that we have to a super team, basically because they seem to pick up a lot of notable players, whether from free agency or trades or whatnot or something. I think it's the Eagles. Sometimes the Ravens, but it's really no super team in the NFL because they got that salary cap. I mean, you can have a 1-2 combo like per se, like the Bengals with Burrow and Chase. But you see what they doing? It's like they giving all their money to the offense. Mm-hmm. Their defense about to suffer. So it's like you can't. Like, what super team in the NFL? It's like, okay, you got a player. You may have a great, players at their respective positions on your team, but you pay them a lot. You hear them all the time. That's why people, that's why you hear people say the things about with the 49ers because they gave their QB money. So they think, oh, you give your QB that some money, it's going to hurt the team. You heard it with the Cowboys. You heard of all these teams that they don't view these quarterbacks as elite level. So when they get paid, it's going to hurt the roster. So they can't do a super team. NFL is probably it is one of the last sports that basically you putting the GM, the scouts, everybody has to do their job. You can't go out there and just pay everybody to build your team. You're going to have to go out there and do the homework, draft well, and make sure that you can build. Yes, you can potentially get free agency and put players to, fill spots here and there. But for the most part, you're going to have to draft. And because that's mainly the teams will win because they're having success with their younger players on their rookie contracts. So in today's NFL, I mean, it really don't. It really ain't no super teams because you just don't. You give the players a player a majority of the money if you want to. Your team ain't doing anything because
Right.
So
I hear you. All right. I'm going to go into this switching gears. Want to kind of go into this topic. It's a little more on the serious side, more of a general conversation. Talked about this somewhat on our Gray Area show on that comes on Sunday nights on the Black Men Unfiltered Network, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. We talked about this idea of parenting, and one of the things that came up was the idea that the cost involved in raising children. And one of the things that I pointed out was, when people talk about how expensive things are, how much of that is by choice and how much of that is just, the decisions that parents are making in terms of where they spend their money. So one of the points that I had raised in the show was the amount of money that parents invest in their children's activities, sports activities and the like. And so I saw this article, and thanks, Shawnee, for sending this out because I had the slides. So it says the surveys that this is a recent article from April. Parents shell out $3,000 annually on kids' sports with college and pros in mind. And here you're saying, second part of the article here says, according to the Natural Representative online survey of 1,036 participants with kids who play school, community, and travel sports, 83 of the parents believe that their children will have the skills to play at the collegiate level, while 49% are confident that their children will receive an athletic scholarship, and 75% believe that they have the skills to play professionally, despite long odds suggesting otherwise. But the reality is, according to the NCAA, here only about 6% of high school athletes play collegiately. Lower percentage at D1. Less than 1% of those get drafted into a professional sport. And here I just want to share some of those stats that I got. This is directly from the NCAA website. So again, if you look at the left column, the number of athletes, let's look at basketball. So we were just talking about that. 537,438 participants, only 19,000 participants overall. That's only 3.6% of high school athletes go on to play. And what really surprised me was basically any basketball. I mean, we all talk about D1, but Division III is only 1.5%, Division II, 1%. So again, these percentages just across the board, your best success is going to be ice hockey, which isn't available in all areas. Or lacrosse, you have a much better chance of trying to get a scholarship, certainly on the men's side, and it's even more dramatic if you're a woman. If you play female ice hockey, you got you have a 33% chance of playing college hockey. At least, at 21% at a Division III school. So again, I'm thinking with all the money that parents are devoting, and to be quite frankly, I thought $3,000 was pretty cheap because that's just the fees just to get on the team. But when you start to factor in equipment, when you start factoring in travel, I got friends, I mean, their daughter does cheer in Florida. So they got to fly to Florida for these cheer meets or track and field meets. In all these different sports. And I'm just thinking, we all remember that documentary Hoop Dreams from back in the day. Very good documentary, but I'm just thinking, are most of these parents just living hoop dreams and selling their kids that, believing that their kids can play on the next level when the odds are saying that the odds are still very low? What if you took that $3,000? And again, I'm not trying to pocket watch anybody. But what if that $3,000 was invested in their educational expenses for college or something that they can do down the line? Or what if you put that $3,000 in the market? But for a lot of parents who just believe that their kids are going to be these collegiate athletes or get opportunity, it seems like it doesn't come to a lot of them. So what are you guys' thoughts on the article and just the stats versus what parents are doing. I know, Shawnee, you have young kids. Coach, you've raised kids, and I know you've worked in college, and with young people and youth sports and whatnot. But what's your general take on this topic of what parents are spending in hopes that their kids get these scholarships? I mean, what's your start with the coach, and we'll go to Shawnee, and hopefully if Dante, if you're still around, certainly I can bring you back up if you're still around.
That's an interesting chart and list of things. It's sad how I would say Pop Warner Sports has evolved into this massive money-making ordeal, right? Because now you don't have too many local teams anymore. Everybody has these traveling teams.
Mhm.
I play football. Football has gone to that. Gymnastics and cheer and all that. I can understand. They've always done this for a long time. It's not for everybody. That's why as a parent, you just foot the bill for it. And we've seen it's parents who've never really played sports or maybe was on a team and things happen. Some parents do live vicariously through their children, and if their children is playing sports, it gives them something to cheer for, and just be excited for again. It's your own seed that you see them out there on the field. Sometimes it just does something to you as a parent. But as far as $3,000, like you said, because even with all of these high schoolers participating across the country, the numbers are very low when they actually go to college under scholarship or play sports at the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Because now the child or the person has to make that decision for themselves. It's not the parent saying, let's go to practice, dedicate. A lot of people really don't. A lot of the youth don't have the dedication as the parents. When I played, I would catch the bus to practice. You didn't have to take me to practice. If I wanted to get to practice, I wanted to do it. And I wanted to play, had aspirations of playing the NFL. My first year in college, they had the NFL strike. I said, okay, well, maybe the NFL ain't that important anymore. And then I hurt my knee. They're like, we're going to take a scholarship. But I never went to tell my parents like, I just ain't go. I just took it in stride. And, my mother did ask me. I remember like, boy, what happened to you playing football? Well, Mom hurt my knee. Remember my knee? Yeah. Remember you. So I said, well, they took my scholarship. But why didn't you say nothing? I said, no, it wasn't for you to fit that bill. That was for me. But the numbers are alarming. I think it's a great way, especially now. Hopefully these numbers will change going forward. But with the NIL in school, hey, if you're a C average student, you can play a good sports game, whatever sports. If you're a B average student, hey, why not go to college? Get away from your family. Get away from the regulars in the neighborhood. Go sing something, learn something about yourself. You're independent. You're living by yourself. Maybe you just might develop good techniques good enough to be better than your peers. But now I would say take advantage of it. But parents, let the kids play. Just show up at the game. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Shawnee, your thoughts on
Well, I think it was looking at the high school participants, and then the athletes from high school that do go on to play at the collegiate level, whether it's Division 1, 2, or 3. And I think in high school, obviously in high school and younger, especially in today's uh, generation, if a parent sees their kid has any type of athleticism, they're like, oh, if they have the financial means to do so, oh, because now it's the resources out there to train a kid in their respective discipline and sport, whatnot. It's out there. It's out there. You just gotta be able to afford the constant training and whatnot. And many play, even if they sacrificing for their kid to go to these training to have these professional dreams, they just trying to, they just looking at that payday because it's something that it's like any other discipline, but you really won't know per se unless you have like a prodigy in your hands. You really won't know a kid's potential interest as far as what they could potentially go into the workforce and make a good chance of good money, like engineering or in doctor. A lot of times they may not see that until once they realize the discipline and whatnot, it partakes to do those respective disciplines. It'll be high school age, some night won't even recognize it until college. With young athletes, their parents can see that when they're 5 years old. He got some speed, so they put him in a sport, and they see him, able to have success, amongst the kids, and whatnot, and they're like, oh, okay, we think we have something here. And as they get older, their skill set start to grow, and then they start getting the attention of these select teams in their areas. And once a kid start playing select ball, like in baseball, that's when the traveling will start. Now that's when the parents potentially, oh, you may have to travel to this town, to that town, be out on the road for 2 hours. So parents were looking at, okay, we see our child is playing this select ball, it's higher competition and whatnot, and he having some success in there. Oh, okay, we have a chance. Now they're getting pro dreams, so they're gonna start investing more money into their kid and at a young age. And I agree with you, Mr. Bennett. I think 3K is low. I thought that was low.
Yeah, that's just to be on the team from
Yeah.
what I'm seeing. Like I said, that doesn't include, like I said, equipment. Again, friend of mine, he bought his son a bat, a DeMarini bat. It's like $400.
If you gonna be that parent to take your kid to their respect, like I have a cousin, she loves taking her kids. They run track. They do a lot of traveling with that. Another one, her kids play softball. They do a lot. It's gonna be a sacrifice for the parents. They have to love that though. They gonna have to love that. And so I believe because they looking at, okay, potentially now that we have NIL deals. Coach just mentioned, you really don't even have to go professional anymore, because you see, especially in football and basketball too, on the men's side, you see athletes come in college and be very good in college ball to where they can get NIL deals. And okay, if you don't make the pros, because it's still only 1% of those college players make the pros, you may not be good enough to make the pros, or even if you make the pros, you may have a short career, but you may have a good career in college nowadays to where you get very good NIL deals. So parents see that and be like, oh, okay, man, our kid has a chance of really getting generational money. So they gonna make the sacrifices. They, I guess, seem necessary. Now, sometimes they may think that they may be pushing their kid in a direction where you look at them like, your kid they don't have the time to do this, but they're not trying to listen to that. They believe they have the money, they can get a trainer who can train the skill set into their kids. So yeah, I just think it's the generation we live in. Look like everybody trying to raise their kids to be some type of athlete because of money that's out there now. It's literally like if you see your kid with some type of athleticism, they're a walking lottery ticket.
Well, that's and that to me, that's the thing. This is, I mean, again, the numbers. I mean, it just such a diametrically opposed when you got to get 83% of parents their kids can play. When the reality is, again, you got these drastically no numbers. It's just like, now my dad, I love my dad, but he would play the lot every day. Pick 3, pick 6, pick 4 every single day.
And have you ever shown him the odds? Have you ever shown him the odds of that?
100%. But all he needed, now he might get one hit per year, like on a pick 3 or something like that, and you couldn't tell him nothing. He may not win for another 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he got that one, and it wasn't even straight. He didn't get like the max. It was like, $130 payout or whatever. He was waving in our faces. See, I told you I was going to hit. I told you I was going to hit. and he never got the big one. So to me, this is like lottery for parents to be so disconnected from the facts, to say that, and all this money, and because what, like I said, what brought about the conversation was, again, you have a lot of people saying that they don't want children, or they don't want a lot of children because they say they're too expensive. But then again, I'm asking the question, well, what are you spending on? Is it more so a lifestyle thing that you're trying to provide, or is it about, what a kid needs versus what you think they want? Does a kid need $500? You need a $500 PlayStation, $200 sneakers, travel team with all the bells and whistles on it? Is that what ultimately what a child needs, or is that going to have a major role in that kid's success? I'm not saying, certainly if you got the means to do it, yeah, but parents extending themselves to such a degree, some working extra jobs to afford, this kind of thing. But again, what if that money was used elsewhere? Like I said, if you want your kids to go to school that badly, then, the important thing, how about getting the finances together so they can put that money, that $3,000, if you put into a 529 account, and when they're young, and see what it is when they, grow, get to 18 or something like that. I'm just thinking, just a change in thinking. I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money, but certainly, can you think outside the box a little bit? But it's like everyone's chasing this dream that my son or daughter is going to be the next. And the reality is something very, and the thing that really got me was, again, Division III, which doesn't even offer scholarship money like that. They don't have the means to be offering that, and still the numbers are drastically low when it comes to your kid's opportunity to play D3 ball. And how many guys, once out of 1,000 players, you see a guy from D3 school make it to the NFL or the NBA or some other professional sport. Every once in a blue moon that happens, but again, it's more the lottery than a strong probability of making it. Because even with the D1 schools, we all know not all D1 schools, and it's going to get worse with this new commission and whatnot. It's going to get worse, where again the rich are going to get richer, so you're going to have fewer schools. That we talk about the potential death of the mid majors, being able to afford a lot of these, to have a lot of these athletes. Is going to get even worse, even for the D1 players. So I'm just thinking that this is, I think, a discussion that I think a lot more parents need to have a more honest discussion of. Have your kids working out, have them in the get them in the gym, get them into intramurals or whatever it is that you can provide. But for a lot of these folks going all in hopes that their kids get something, the reality seems to be pointing to something else. So I thought that was worth raising here, since again we brought it up on the prior show. But any final thoughts on this one before we move to the last block?
I mean, it's really interesting, I would think more students would get involved with sports going forward now that the NIL deals are sort of solidified, and it's going to force players to really make true decisions going forward. Can't chase the money now. It's a cow.
Well, honestly, I think it may wind up with less, because they're talking about the number of participants at the high school level. You might have more people trying to get in, but again, the schools are only going to have still a certain amount of scholarship money or whatever they're going to get. So again, the numbers may go actually down, not up, because you have a lot more. It's like a bigger a funnel, more trying to funnel through, but it's only going to allow a few people out.
But each team has a total number of students. Like, you might have a golf team that got 5 students. So, they only have so many slots each year, even with football.
Well, unless you're going to double the slots.
No, they're not going to do that.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So the chances the probabilities of, if you want to take the high school participants, that's going to drive the percentages down, because you're going to have more participating at the high school level. But still, you have that fixed number of slots going in at the college level.
But Brother Bennett, the problem ain't the high school level. It's from the transition from high school to the NCAA. That's where you had to drop off, because look at it. Not a lot of people are actually going to college like that anymore. That's where the issue is. It's not that they'll go to high school. I know players over the last 10, 15 years have a great high school career. Going to college? Nah. Why not? Because if they didn't get that scholarship from the school that they had in their mind, they had a Florida State scholarship in their mind, but they played on a Division 2 or 3 level, then they'll just opt out altogether. So, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's just how sports now in our society now, especially in America, it's just basically has become the main thing per se. It's almost like when you have kids, a parent is just going to naturally put them into sports to see if they will accept it. They'll put them in sports first before they will put them in a science program or whatnot. They says first we got to see if you got the sports gene in you, and if we see any type of sports gene in you, we're gonna push it. We're gonna push it. And if we have the means to do so, we're gonna even push you even more. We're gonna expose you to, the best young trainers that we have in our area, and just keep going. And then if you get invited to a select league, we're gonna push it. We're gonna sacrifice. It's just basically just gonna keep going and going and going and going. It's almost like it's almost like the kids in the military. Like the sacrifices a family have to make if they have an active military in their household. And almost like the same thing a sacrifice parents have to make if their kids have any type of success playing sports. Now here in DFW, y'all know Texas football is huge. You can look at our high school stadiums. They probably cost more than some college stadiums in the country.
Yeah.
Well, hell, they do. And we have teams here. I stayed right down the street from the biggest division in Texas. Was it 6A now? The high school that won the state title here. And you can see that even with schools, you see it in universities. That's why this whole conference realignment is because of football and sports and whatnot. So because it's money driven, they're getting the money. Well, you see it here in high schools. They will accept if their team has some type of success, especially in football. They will. You start seeing them that they'll soak up that as their identity per se. Generally, you have to live in a certain area of your neighborhood or your city to go to a particular school, the zoning. And if you want to go to another school, you got to have you try to use an address of a family member to try to get into it. But you're still you're restricted to a certain zone where many, especially the teams down here that have perennial success in football, they became open. They like, hey, y'all come. If you can find a way to get here, you can come. And, cause they try to, that's how they able to keep their, like Duncanville High School down here. Yeah, they good in football, basketball, track. They be going to state in a lot of these. So they're an open district per se. I don't know how open they are, but you don't have to be boxed in a certain zone. So cause they getting financially, getting the benefits for that.
Yeah.
So it's just culture now in today's society is sports culture. It's basically the way to go, man. It's just the way to go.
Yeah. And it seems like, and again, I'm not hating on certainly any former athletes, who certainly now have the means to invest in their children and give them sort of unlimited opportunities and resources. But it does seem like with a lot of these, basketball and football, it definitely seems like, it's almost becoming a closed club. Like back in the day, sports was your ticket out of the hood or the ghetto or whatever. But if, a lot of, you see how many every day you see like a former pro athlete, his son signed to Notre Dame or some other, major institution. So it seems like, it's becoming almost like a closed club more so than an opportunity to kind of get out from your background or circumstances. So, but again, I mean, it seems like that's just the reality of where sports is today. but it's definitely it's definitely something that again I want to address. Shout out to Anton. Megan, would have loved to have you in on this chat also, Anton. We were just talking about just the amount of money and investment that parents put into their children with the expectation that they may be able to play sports from a high school level to a collegiate level, and the numbers certainly paint a pretty dire picture of your chances of your child playing at the next level, even at Division III level. The numbers aren't very great when it comes to those opportunities. But last segment, we talked about. We certainly talked about some serious topic. Let's get back to some fun stuff here. So last block for the night, I want to talk about how much does the cheerleaders make. So again, this was spawned again. Guys, cover your ears. Yes, we got to talk about the Cowboys. So again, in a recent story that I just found, again, this might have happened a few months ago, but the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders got a significant pay raise. I think from $15 an hour, which was, I think, the going rate, to $75 per hour. So it was like a big story that they got this big raise. You got like a $10 billion franchise. And the cheerleaders who've been there for since like the mid 70s, I think, when the cheerleaders came out. I remember as a kid, Coach, they used to have movies about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. They were like the glamour group of cheerleaders in the NFL, more than the Rams cheerleaders or anything else. And so they were such a staple for so long. But the reality is, there's not a lot of money in it. So again, we see here the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, $500 a game, or $15 to $20 an hour, whereas the NFL average is $150 per game, or $22,500 per year. So so again, not a lot of money when it comes to, it says here, ZipRecruiter requests that NFL cheerleader wages vary widely. Some making $41.83 an hour, and some as little as $9.86 an hour to do it. But certainly, I'm sure some of these ladies, they enjoy just the opportunity to do it. It's an elite group regardless of the team, and not all teams have cheerleaders, but I know certainly Dallas, the Rams, I think the Raiders, the Raiderettes, certainly they've always had them, but yeah, not necessarily the greatest career move. So again, you're better off definitely getting a job to supplement your income in this time. But I got a little I was tickled by the story when it said, yeah, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, yeah, they just got a pay raise. Jerry approved the pay raise. So, but then Shawnee pointed out, yeah, I mean, it's not a lucrative thing, but look, if you're young, you're single, and you want that privilege and access, hey, why not do it? But Coach, what are your thoughts on this? Are you a cheerleader guy, or you could care less? You just let's get to the game on the field, or what's your take on the cheerleader pay scale, or cheerleaders in general?
I mean, shout out to the cheerleaders, man. Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders have sort of set the standard in the market for cheerleaders over the last 30 years. They've been making movies on them since the 70s. So shout out to the cheerleaders, man. I didn't know that they made so less money. I thought it was a little bit more, but salute to them, man. The game is evolving financially. Why not have the cheerleaders evolve? I think all cheerleaders should get similar salaries. Everybody should start getting raises. But yeah, man, salute to them, man. Get out there. For the guys who didn't play football, yeah, y'all watch the cheerleaders and watch me. That's how I look at it. You sideline guys, you pay attention to the cheerleaders, and that's all I can say.
Shawnee, what's your take?
Well,
as we start winding down the show.
So with the cheerleaders, I guess over the years, whatnot, I've watched whatever specials on cheerleaders because the lifestyles they have. Yeah, it was no secret to me that the cheerleaders they get paid as less as they do because it's not a full-time job for them. The title is not a full-time, but if you ask a cheerleader because of the work that they put in, it's almost like a full-time. Because they have to be so dedicated to the craft. Because not professional cheerleaders are not like the cheerleaders that you see in high school. No, these are dancers. They are professional dancers. So they constantly practicing dance routines, as far as on their own, and the dance routines that they have to do with the cheer squad. So, but yeah, many of them they have a part-time job, and also many of them have a regular 9 to 5 career, and then they will just do they'll come to cheer practice in the evening hours after they get off of work. They'll literally go from work straight to the practice facility and start practicing. So they love it. They have a very hard love for dance, and so that's what they do. Now with the Cowboys, they obviously they the more prominent cheerleading squad out there, pretty much in all professional sports. And they biggest thing, okay, yeah, they was not getting the money per se, but they was getting like perks. They especially during the season. Cause one thing about cheerleaders, they have to try out every year. So I'm looking at that last line when they talk about the zip recruiter, talking about how some of them make like at the time. Because this was I think back in 22. So there was some making under 17 an hour, some making 23. Those like the rookies, and then if they have to try out again, they the vets. And the vets, I believe they're making slightly more than the rookies. But yeah, they have to try out every year. It's not guaranteed spot. They just have a leg up because they know what to expect per se from the judges and what they're looking for. And so they go through. If they make the squad, they get they do visitation, like, they'll go visit hospitals for kids. They'll get these professional fancy photo shoots. They go on all type of, they can go international trips representing the team. They go to army base. They get a lot of perks per se. Yeah, the money in it, but they love the perks are good for, especially you talking about the Cowboys, because they're so known. They do a lot. And in particular, well, I think one factor why the Cowboys cheerleaders was able to get this huge raise per se, I mentioned it in our messenger that they are literally coming off the success off their Netflix reality series, what's called America's Sweetheart, and I believe they already currently in season 2, and I think they already got approved for a next new season. That's been a big hit. So no different than how we were just talking about with the NBA and they getting these media deals for get their contracts. Well, it looked like apparently for the cheerleaders, the same thing can happen to them. But you got to have the name, the cachet like Cowboys cheerleaders. I can't say like if the Atlanta Falcons cheerleading squad put up a Netflix and then a lot of people start watching them to the point where they start ordering new seasons of it. Thus, you know, enabling them to increase their salary to whatever respective amount it will be. It may not be as much as the Cowboys, but just for them to get paid more. But yeah, majority of the cheerleader squads, they don't get paid like that. Like I say, it's just their love for the dance and the perks that come with it. And I was happy that they got it because if you just watch that documentary on Netflix and just get an idea of the work that they put in, you're like, well, damn. Especially the ones who have a 9 to 5 career, and then come to practice and see the work that they put in, and then the stress that, especially when they're trying to make the squad, the stress that they be under trying to do this.
Are some of them like married or mothers?
Some of them, some of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them because they're younger. A lot of them may be like, you know, single or maybe have a boyfriend, so may not have no kids. Maybe some of them may just be out of college or whatnot. So definitely a lot of them are younger, and you know, like men in football and whatnot, in any professional sport, the older you get, the harder it will be for them to make the squad. But yes, there are some who are younger, but they have families, and it's an even bigger sacrifice for them. But they still do it because they love what they do so much. They love to dance, and it's such a rare opportunity to become a professional cheerleader. So if they get an opportunity, they get their toe in the door to potentially make a team. I'm watching that. I only watched like a couple of episodes, and yeah, I'm like, damn, these women, they be putting in work. So you got nothing you help but to respect the amount of effort and work and sacrifice that they put in to be a cheerleader. So cause you see them on the field during the game day, but it's like they got a whole nother life, I guess, out there as far as a cheerleader when they don a Cowboys cheerleader uniform that you don't see, on TV. I remember when I did a tour of Cowboy Stadium, and we went into the locker room, both home and visitors, the visiting team. But then they even have their own locker room, which is like A+ locker room.
Right.
So it's a whole
like I said, for a time in your life, I would think that just the opportunity that you'll never get back, especially if you came from a dance background, you weren't necessarily going to do it professionally, you can kind of take it to the next level. So so I certainly appreciate certainly those who do it just for the love of doing it, and like you said, the perks that the memories they can get from it. I don't know if there's like an age cutoff at some point. I know you said they got to practice or they got to try it every year, but I don't know if you got any like 10-year plus vets out there. But I remember I think that TV that show Girlfriends, didn't one of the sisters on there, I think she used to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader as well, the dark skin.
I think so.
Yeah, I think she was one. So but yeah, certainly hopefully they can like I said, hopefully women across the league certainly can get maybe a little more pay out of this, but again, they know what they're signing up for. But I just thought that was a good takeaway. But as we certainly start to wind down the show, want to appreciate everybody who came in tonight. Like I said, Anton, would have loved to have you in on that previous conversation, but you guys certainly go back and watch the show and watch for the replay and the shorts that will be made from this, and particularly the conversation on the sumo wrestlers. I actually had fun with that one. Yeah, man, I just gotta see it now. I see it in my mind. Get a whole line full of sumos versus NFL players. Just have some fun with it. Because the thing that got me in the video, the guy, he was like smiling half the time. Like it wasn't like he was trying hard. Like I'm thinking if he was in his psycho mode, like about to go to battle or whatever, who knows? We could have had a different thing. But then Micah, he'd be gassed up as well. So
all I know, if that was a run play, Micah wasn't getting off that block. He would have been stuck. He would have been stuck.
That's for sure. All right, we're going to come up to certainly the final thoughts. We're going to keep it, keep the show somewhat brief tonight. But again, appreciate you guys for being on. And so, Shawnee, you want to kick it off with your final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts is going back to the NBA super team debate we had earlier. I personally, I like the parity of the league. Like I say, it makes the GM do their jobs. Drafting, I don't think maybe not at the level of NFL, because NBA, it's like if you're not really drafting in the lottery, you got low chance of your player be that impactful, especially on your squad. They may be more impactful on the next team, because many teams, especially they're trying to win a championship, they just don't have that development window. They're trying to win, so they may just have to ship you to, like my Rockets when they shipped Cam Whitmore, and he wasn't getting that much minutes with the Rockets, but he got sent to Washington, so he'll get more opportunity to show that he can actually do something. But yeah, I like the parity in the league. Super teams, to me, just seem like it leads more collateral damage per se. Because me, I'm always looking at the team as far as me being a fan of a team, I want my team to put the best team together to increase their chance to win a title. And so far, I think Miami was the last time we saw a successful super team. Pretty much, I believe every super team after that. Because I really wouldn't consider Boston a super team because they was homegrown. They drafted well, right. And then ultimately they players they drafted so well, and then they was able to get free agents here and there to fill in some spots. But ultimately now they find themselves in a position. Okay, they've drafted well, their players play well. You got to pay them, so it made you got to get rid of some other spots. But Miami, as far as getting these three players and paying them, this higher money and whatnot, and then trying to fill out the rest of the roster with whoever. I think that's the last successful super teams. Other than that, we've seen them just leave like a wake of destruction for that particular franchise. I mean, they don't pan out well. You have no depth, so you traded your bench, so you don't have nothing. Now you got to trade these star players just to acquire more talent and draft picks. So now it seems like now just super teams are just the fastest. You put yourself on the fastest highway for rebuild. So yeah, I don't mind a parity because it forces GMs to do their job and actually develop and draft good talent.
Mhm. Yeah. I want to talk about something we haven't really talked about, I don't think at all, since I've been part of the show. But I do want to make an acknowledgement here. You have Novak Djokovic, who is playing in the semis at Wimbledon and going for a record-setting 25th Grand Slam title. Now, the record is Margaret Court. She played in the 50s and 60s, I believe. She had 24 titles, and he's going for his 25th. Now, again, I don't know. I used to follow, especially back in the day in the 80s when you had Jimmy Connor, John McEnroe. I think the brother who had won the Wimbledon U.S. Open. I think that might have been a little bit before my time, Arthur Ashe. But certainly it was a dynamic era. And then you had Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras and those guys. So I don't know why my following of tennis has waned over the years, maybe because there's a lack of, certainly outside of the Williams sisters, certainly there was a lack of American presence, certainly in the men's game. And for a while, it was like Europeans were kind of dominating the game, and Djokovic, he seems to be to me, almost one, not only he looks like, he almost kind of acts like Aaron Rodgers to a degree. He kind of has like a smugness about him. And maybe that's might be a reason why I never kind of embraced him or really got into tennis. But certainly I think his achievement or what he's shooting for at age 38 and to win a 25th title, and very little is being said about it. I think that, I don't know, you can say that's the state of the game. I don't know what tennis needs. I know you have Coco, who won I think the Australian Open, and we'll see. I don't know where she is in the Wimbledon chase, if she's still in it or not.
She lost the first week. Yeah,
she lost the first week. So yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's like there's just something. You got some great athletes there, but it seems like there's just something missing in tennis, or why I lost my passion for it the way I did. But back in the day, Bjorn Borg and Yvonne Lindell and those guys, it was almost like especially seeing John McEnroe. That was like must-see TV, whether he was going to act out or not, or curse out the line judge, or do something crazy or not. It was definitely must-see TV back in the day, and so again, I definitely want to acknowledge if he does pull this off, you would have to make the case that he's the greatest, certainly male tennis player of all time. I mean, yeah, you got guys again, Nadal and Federer and a lot of those guys, but he would stand alone, I would think. And he went up against some of those guys too, certainly on his way up. He had to beat Federer and Nadal and those guys. But yeah, I would hope that, who's going to be the next great American player of any ethnicity. I mean, I would love it if he's a brother, but I mean, just anybody who can kind of garner or capture some of the imagination for the American viewer. I mean, a lot of people seem to watch it now. They're like the diehard fans. You're going to watch regardless of who's playing. But certainly, where's that person going to come from? Maybe somewhere in Compton. You never know. Who's going to be the next great one. But again, I just want to acknowledge his achievement. And but I am looking for the next who's going to replace Venus and Serena, quite frankly, because again, as much as I love Coco, but again, the Williams sisters brought a swag to the tennis game that whether you loved it or hated it, it definitely I thought changed tennis for the for the better. And certainly I feel their loss certainly in the game. So just want to acknowledge that. But coach is
Well,
always
I
yeah.
want to
Go
add this
ahead.
to that, Mr. Bennett. Like the Williams sisters were the same, like basically that same vein as Tiger Woods. As far as their drive to be great in those two respective sports.
Hmm.
They. I mean, now it's just everybody. I don't want to say buddy buddy. I know we see that in team sports and individual sports. It's just you just don't see that. You know what I'm talking about? That damn obsession that you see. You could literally see on the the field of play. Like the Williams sisters and Tiger hated to lose.
Mm,
They'll be pissed off after they lost,
mm.
and it was just they drive just to do that. And I just don't see that in these. And they can't really. I don't know if society. It's like you gotta have some type of. I don't want to say decorum, but they can't
But that's the
really.
thing. See, I mean, Anton made the point that it's hard to have that personality, but you had personality. All those
Yeah,
guys, I mean, the Connors, McEnroe, Lindell. You had
everybody
Andre
get
Agassi.
villainized
It
for it
was
now.
it was full of the, and they celebrated. They
Hmm.
basically brought tennis into like the modern era where you had casuals who were watching tennis because of the personalities in the game. The Williams sisters, the way they dressed, the flair, the beads in the hair. So they had personalities, and I don't know. Somehow they just censored that out of the game. So again, I think that's exactly what they need now. As far as Naomi, yeah, talented player, but I think she took some time off because again, I think the pressure, especially when she beat Serena that one year when Serena was going for I think the all-time women's titles or whatever, and she beat her, and people were booing. So I know she kind of pulled back from the game a bit as well. I'm not sure
Well,
she's been the same player since.
well, I have something to say about Naomi. Now, I mentioned it on a website when I was kind of controversial because you remember at one point in time, Naomi was number one. She was number one, and she was hitting. Her career was hitting it hard.
Hmm.
And remember, she started dating that one guy, and she she ended up getting pregnant.
Hmm.
rapper.
And yes, and you're like, oh, okay. And what women once they get pregnant, it almost takes them they away from their sport for almost a full year. And so she just, I mean, she's still a hell of a tennis player, but she at that time before she was pregnant, she was hitting it. I mean, you was looking at her as being, and then of course the whole mental health thing that she was,
Yeah, like I said, she really
yeah,
took a hit when she won.
yeah,
When she beat Serena, she was in tears, and Serena
yeah,
had to put her arm around her because again, people were hating because they obviously they wanted to see Serena break the record or tie it at least, and she could never get past 23. And it was like I never saw her being like the same player after that. So I think again that's a pressure environment, which again, so for those who were able to excel and dominate in it for the time they did and brought swag to it. Again, that's what I appreciate those guys. Even Djokovic, even though again he can be a cocky guy, we all know his stances with the COVID protocol and all that. He was definitely he can be very opinionated and whatnot. But again, it's like you don't have these guys who are capturing like the imagination of the people. Again, there's just something missing in the sauce of tennis today where I think you need colorful people with personalities who are good and who can play. You even had people watching tennis just because who was the one couldn't play it all. Anna Kournikova never won anything, but
hmm,
because she looked like a model, then everybody wanted to watch just because she was there. And she made a ton of money uh, um, to do so. So I mean, like I said, I just think there's something missing. I would love to start watching the Grand Slams again. That's clearly U.S. Open and Wimbledon were certainly my favorites. And I know friends of mine, they go to U.S. Open every year in Queens. And so I just wish I could get back into it. But again, there's no really, unless Coco's in or something, it's like there's really nobody compelling. Definitely not on the men's side that really is like, okay, I can get you got this one brother, Haitian American brother, who's he's pretty good. What's that, Tibto or something like that? I forget his name. It'll come to me in a minute. But yeah, I'm just waiting to see if we can, some guys, somebody in the hood who's going to be the next great one.
But Brother Bennett,
yeah,
here's the problem with what I know you want there, but here's the problem. It goes back to that slide you were showing. If all these people are participating in these high school sports and ain't nobody going on to the next level to play, you won't get that. You won't get that. And again, we need.
Well, the Williams sisters didn't go through any college collegiate program.
But they had their father who trained them at an early age. A lot of people not even. They rather. A lot of people are not engaged like that. They say go over and let Shawnee train you instead of training you yourself, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and like it would have to be a diamond in the rough. You know what I mean?
No, if more kids got into it, you would see more diamonds in the rough. Most kids don't play tennis. We want basketball, football. Tennis, sports like that, baseball, those are the sports that can have a long career. That's why tennis players have long careers. And of course, it takes
you're saying instead of these parents trying to direct their kids into football and basketball and whatnot, they should play tennis instead.
Well, they should play a lot of these other non-contact sports. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going for the big sports, but there's a lot of money to be made in golf, tennis, because a lot more people outside of America play those sports. That's why it's more lucrative.
It's just the skill. It just takes a whole lot more skill. I mean, we talked about it with the team sports and with baseball. It's just easier for parents to have their kid on the road to basketball or football than to baseball, let alone golf, because it's the skill set. I mean, you have to get used to failure in some of these sports, and some people just don't want to do that. It seems like it's just easier to find success, or it's the pathway to success in football. Like I mentioned.
Shani, how's that though?
Well, in football,
but you got to compete against me. In football, you got to compete. Baseball, you just play against yourself.
In football, like I mentioned earlier, there's multiple positions that you can try out. So if I'm a skill player and if I'm fast or whatnot, and I can't catch.
All right, so this is going to be. So I'm putting. All right, so I'm already booking this for next week. We're going to raise this topic up in terms of getting kids into these other sports. But Coach, been trying to close the show for the last 10 minutes. I didn't mean to spark an overtime conversation, but as usual, why don't you close this out and we'll get on it.
Man, listen, man, we're in the middle of the summer, man. Everybody get outside, man. Get the lazy kids outside, introduce them to new sports. Most sports start around the country about July. Actually, next week, by the 15th, you can get your kids outside, go sit up under a tree, read your little book, paint your toenails, brothers, sit back, take a nap. But get the kids outside, man. Tennis, baseball, football, soccer, anything to get the blood flow, anything, swimming, put the kids in sports, man. We got to get out of this basketball, football mindset, because we see very small numbers even get an opportunity to see an NFL field. So, yeah, man, take advantage of all sports. Coaches, stop pigeonholing kids into one sport. If you want to play 2 or 3 sports, let them play 2 sports, 3 sports. You ain't dictating whether or not he go to the NFL, so let him try them all out. And kids, listen, man, don't be afraid to try something you never tried before, because I still know I can shoot a couple of jump shots in some of you young guys' faces.
And with that, again, we come to the end of another one-on-one sports show, certainly for myself, for the coach, for Shawnee, for Dante. Thanks for making the college try to get up here. Hopefully things will be a lot much better for you next week. Everyone else, just make sure you hit the like button as we close out tonight. But for everyone else, take care. God bless. And we'll see you next week. Good night.